Something big is brewing for the UFC as multiple outlets are reporting a ton of rumors between a super fight between two of the best UFC fighters, two of the top 5 pound for pound fighters on the planet right now, with a lot of noise of this going down and multiple different analysts and fighters alike calling for this fight to be made by the UFC, as it would be absolute fireworks, and there's a lot of trash talk going on as well, and we're going to break all of it down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to UFC Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into things as usual. Guys, if you're enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe. It would really help us out a lot as we're on the way to growing this channel. We have a loyal 2 subscribers right now, and you know what? I'm proud of that. We're going to get there, guys, I promise. But diving right into it, Joe Rogan himself has talked about it. He wants Ilia Topuria to fight at 155 against Islam Makhachev in a super fight that would be the biggest fight of the year, as it would just be a legendary fight that in a way would reminisce the two guys who are on each side of Islam and Topuria there when it comes to just the sheer power factor versus pure dominant Sambo wrestling. But there's just been a lot of heat about these rumors. Now, here's the thing, guys. The Miami UFC card in April does not have a main event yet. We have Alex Pereira fighting Magomed Ankalaev in March. It's a pick'em right now, 115 each way. We have Justin Gaethje versus Dan Hooker as an awesome co-main event that, if that's not the fight of the night, that's going to be just stunning. It's a guaranteed $50K to each of those guys right there, unless there's a real quick knockout, which would be not the most surprising thing, but also still pretty surprising. These guys are tough guys. But look, Miami doesn't have a main event. It's got a slew of awesome fights that I cannot wait for, but there's not a main event yet, and there's been main events put after them. I mean, we now know UFC Vegas 105 is Lerone Murphy versus Josh Emmett, who is finally returning after knocking out Bryce Mitchell and making him have a lot of hot takes that are hotter takes than usual Bryce Mitchell takes, and that's all we should probably say on the matter. But outside of that, what we are seeing is a lot of rumors. We're seeing a lot of fights made for an epic Miami card, but we haven't seen the main event yet, and now it feels like we're getting an idea of what it could be. Now, diving into this, it is mentioned that Islam has a fight coming up, and he said, I can't announce that yet, but there is an offer that we need to sit down with the team and think about, because there are options, and meaning there's more than one option that Islam can go with for fighting for the next UFC title. It could be Charles Oliveira, who did win sort of a title elimination bout against Michael Chandler in 5 rounds. He won the decision, won 4 rounds to 1. Great job by Oliveira. Everyone wants to see Charles fight for the belt again, even though it's obviously an uphill battle for him. Meanwhile, there's also Ilia Topuria saying that he doesn't want to say anything because the UFC asked him not to, but hopefully we're going to have some announcements really, really soon. It's pretty strange that these guys both said this around the same time while the UFC has not hammered in a Miami main event yet. And I'll tell you guys one thing that I know for sure. At least one of Ilia Topuria or Islam Makhachev will be main eventing in Miami. There's a chance it's both. There's a chance these two do fight each other in Miami, because we know that the UFC wants the International Fight Week to be John Jones versus Tom Aspinall. We know that. We know that's what they want the main event to be, with probably Juliana Pena versus maybe Amanda Nunes if she wants to come back, or Kayla Harrison as the co-main event, with just a slew of great fights on that as well. Miami, it's already so stacked up. They love stacking up that Miami card. They did it with Sean O'Malley. They're doing it now. And, I mean, Topuria's risen through the roof over the last year. I mean, within the last year, he's knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in the 2nd round. He knocked out Max Holloway in the 3rd round. What we're seeing is Topuria just at the height of his fame. Now, here's the thing. He hasn't cleared out his division, and we all know that. And Joe Rogan, as he put it, he said, I don't care. We already saw the tweet, but we said, I don't care. I hope Ilia Topuria goes up to 155. I don't care if he's only defended the title once. Let's do it. And they absolutely should do it. I think it's pretty clear they should do it. I mean, Islam is the pound-for-pound best fighter on the planet, as he should be. And on top of that, Ilia Topuria is ranked 4th. Islam, just by the numbers, pretty insane. 13 submissions, 5 knockouts. I mean, the man fights for an average time of 10 minutes when now a lot of these fights have been 5-rounders. Islam finishes most of his fights. He's gone to one decision over the last, 3-4 years, and that was the greatest display of mixed martial arts and most people have ever seen between Islam and Volkanovski, which, Islam did win that fight. People like to say Volk did because they like Volk better, myself included, but Islam won that fight pretty clearly. He won round one. He won, was it round 3 that he just sat on Volk for 4 minutes? And then you got to give him round 4 as well, if you ask me. I mean, round 2, Volk won, and round 5, Volk clearly won, but Islam won that fight. And I mean, on top of that, you look at it, the man finishes everyone. And speaking of finishing everyone, outside of Josh Emmett, who, just got, 50-43'd all over the place. I mean, Topuria has been insane. The craziest thing is that he has more submissions than knockouts because Topuria's jiu-jitsu is just freaking absurd. 9 first-round finishes, destroyed Bryce Mitchell, destroyed Alexander Volkanovski in one combination, knocked out Max Holloway. Volk also did fight a good fight, but he had been knocked out 4 months prior to Islam. And though Volk should get that chance back, there's also a lot of guys that have to be fought. If you're Ilia, you have to clear out that division. I know O'Malley wanted to fight him, but he's going to get a title shot again, but it's hard to imagine he's going to beat Merab, and then he's going to be in some weird spot. But on top of that, looking at just the striking is great. The takedowns are great. He defends takedowns insanely well at 93%, but Islam is such a different beast. And he's so much bigger than anyone Ilia has fought. It's hard to imagine Ilia's takedown defense holding up. But every time we doubt Ilia Topuria, he just does something else that nobody can believe. I mean, great significant strikes. Significant strikes landed are insane. Takedown average is fairly normal. Very solid, though. Don't get it twisted. The man's just, we know Ilia is great. We know that he right now is the best featherweight on the planet and that Islam is the best pound-for-pound fighter on the planet. So what it comes down to is the UFC being able to make an absolute banger of a fight that, let's be clear, Ilia can win. It's just hard to imagine Ilia winning. Now, taking a dive back into some of the other info on this, Ilia called out all Dagestani fighters, saying that they try to beat you in earlier rounds to feel that they can dominate you, but when they realize it's not like that, most of the time they end up losing. Now, it's not exactly true. We've seen Saeed Nurmagomedov lose. We've seen Umar Nurmagomedov lose and against Merab in a very close fight, and even Islam said that Umar did lose. That's it. We really don't see the Dagestani guys lose very often. They're very good. You can't act like they're not great. They absolutely are great. But at the end of the day, it's not just them. There's going to be a lot, and I mean a lot, of fun fights that come up with these Dagestani guys. I feel like I'm the one American who doesn't mind watching these guys fight, because if it's Islam, I mean, he's finishing everyone. And Islam versus Topuria is the most entertaining fight you can make. It's not even about Ilia as much as it is about Islam. Who else does he fight? Does he fight Oliveira again? Does he fight Sarukian, who now, according to Dana, has to fight someone else and win before he can get back to a title shot because he lost his chance and screwed the UFC and Beneil Dariush over? Islam doesn't have any opponents, and he wants to fight. He said he wants to fight 3 or 4 times this year. He's got to fight someone in April, that means. That someone's Ilia. Who else fights? I mean, you could put Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez for a interim featherweight belt the same way that when Volk moved up and fought Islam, there was instantly an interim belt between Josh Emmett and Yair Rodriguez that Rodriguez won from the ground, winning that triangle choke out when Josh Emmett jumped on top of him. And then Volk fought Yair, which unfortunately is still his last win, which is just sad to think about. But you just do Volk versus Lopez. And then, because no one should be giving Evloev credit for that win that he had over Aljo. That was such a close fight. I thought Aljo won it. And plus, Evloev's boring as hell. Why would we want to give him a title fight? No one wants to watch Evloev fight. And until he's interesting in some realm, it's just going to be rough to watch that guy fight. And it's hard to... You can't headline a pay-per-view with Evloev unless you're putting Ilia or Volk against him, just because it's the excitement of maybe watching Movsar just get torched on the feet, which does feel bad to say. I don't love trashing fighters because they could all just, beat the living hell out of me, but raise your hand if you want to see Movsar Evloev fight. If that's the fight you see in the crowd, like, oh my god, Movsar! Like, it's just, he's just not entertaining at all. But where things stand right now, I'll be honest, I can guarantee 2 things. One of Ilia or Islam, if not both of them, fight in Miami, because neither of them have fights booked. Both of them could have fights booked. I mean, It'd be a fast turnaround for Islam. Ilia's been out a correct amount of time that it makes sense for him to come back around now. He could fight Volk again. No one would complain. He could fight Lopez. I guess he could fight Movzar. Like, he's got some options that he could do who he hasn't really cleaned out that division yet. But Islam has. And if you want to throw Islam versus Ilia, and they're kind of hinting at it, I think it would be an awesome fight. I also think my other guarantee is that, well, I think Islam would win, and I think he'd win pretty easily. I think he's just too big for Ilia. I think Ilia has a chance. I mean, we've seen Islam get knocked out by a right hand, and it was from a southpaw fighter. Ilia's orthodox, but Ilia also will move his feet in either direction. He's not just going to stand strictly orthodox. We could see Ilia crack. We could see him crack Islam, no doubt about it, but it's hard to imagine. Islam is just on a warpath right now, and I mean, he's just so big. He's just he's a guy who's standing at 215 pounds, fighting at 155. I know Ilia is big too, but like heavy big, but he's not tall. Islam's just so much bigger. I think he would just ragdoll Ilia pretty quickly. But guys, let me know what you think down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day. I'll catch you later.